This is Mountain Home Cemetery in Otsego, Michigan, where our great-great-great-grandparents are buried. This is near the entrance. I'm looking more or less towards where their headstones are from the entrance. I'll pan around here so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's a huge cemetery. It's also on the other side of the road here. I'll show you that too quick. The first time I was here, I walked through this whole thing trying to find them, and of course it was one of the last places I looked. But this is on the other side of the road. These are all newer graves here. So yeah, I'll walk up towards their graves and show you those. So these three graves here are all from our family. The two on the left are John and Elizabeth Duncan, our great-great-great grandparents. They're buried here. The last one that's a little bit taller there is Perry Duncan, who's our uncle. You can kind of see there's a space between Perry and the next headstone over there, so I'm not sure if there might be more relatives buried in that empty spot, or possibly they had bought that and then the people moved. They intended to be buried there. So I don't know whether potentially there could be more relatives buried in that spot. John Duncan, I'm still working on researching them. One source says he was born at sea coming to America in about 1780. I've also seen that he was supposedly born in Pennsylvania here, and his parents died very young, so him and his brothers and sisters were orphaned at a young age. So it's kind of hard to track them, but what it looks like is that they were actually Ulster Irish, meaning they were Scottish that were living in Northern Ireland. But again, I'm still researching that to know for sure. Elizabeth's maiden name was, I think it was probably McLean. I've also seen McLean, but the name McLean was often used as a middle name. There was a Robert McLean Duncan, so I'm guessing that was from her maiden name. She was a McLean, and I think if I remember right, she came from Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. I haven't researched her background very extensively yet. John's kind of interesting because he was born during the Revolutionary War, and he died during the Civil War. So he lived through both Washington and Lincoln's presidencies, which probably not a lot of people did, because a lot of years between those two. He lived to, I believe, 83. He died in 1863. At the end of his life, apparently he had dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, because I think in the 1860 census he was noted as being a, quote, imbecile, meaning he didn't have his, mental faculties. Kind of on that subject, Perry Duncan there, our uncle, had some kind of either mental disability, personality disorder or something like that, because his entire life, even as an adult, he lived with John, up until the end of John's life, when he wrote a note or a letter to the Kalamazoo Mental Institution, basically saying he couldn't take care of his son anymore because he had his own problems. He was over 80 years old, and he had apparently, some kind of senility or dementia. And so Perry went into the Kalamazoo Mental Institution, and evidently died there. He died in his, I think, like age 41. Normally I would suspect that was due to bad treatment because mental institutions were notorious in that era, but Kalamazoo actually has a very good reputation, so I don't know exactly what the cause of death was. It could have been suicide. That's total speculation, something I'd like to research more. So yeah, that's it. You can kind of see here, they're old tombstones. They're very skinny. It's pretty cool. They're still standing because they're so skinny. There's a lot around here that are broken in half. You can't really see. It's pretty dark here, I think. I don't know if you can make out John Duncan there or not. They're pretty worn. I have better pictures on the family tree. But it definitely is John and Elizabeth Duncan. You can see Elizabeth's name, I think, a little better. And I have more details about their exact dates. Elizabeth died shortly after they moved up here from Ohio. They lived most of their life in Ohio. They actually got married in Ohio before it was a state. They moved up here at towards the end of their lives. Some of their sons were up here. So I don't know if they came up here to live with them or just, moved up on their own to be by them or whatever the case may be. A couple of their sons are buried here. Our ancestor, William Duncan, their son, is down in Indiana. So he's not buried here. He was the boat captain. This is Perry Duncan's, as you can see. There's a finger that's pointing supposedly towards heaven, I presume. And there's the details. Again, it's easier to read on either Find a Grave or on the Family Tree website. So I think that's pretty much it about them. I'll walk over to some other Duncan relative graves here and show you those as well. Just to give you kind of a point of reference, John and Elizabeth's graves are right by that pine tree in the middle. I'm standing on the main road here, the first entrance into the cemetery. You can hopefully make them out. They're those really skinny graves by that pine tree, so if you're ever trying to find it, that's where they are from this road here. So it's a pretty short walk. This is the oldest part of the cemetery. I believe they're probably some of the oldest graves here. So it's not too hard to find. I'm going to walk just a little ways up here to John's son, James G. Duncan, and his sons. One who died in the Civil War at age 18 in Andersonville prison. Walking over there. So this is another Duncan plot here. It's literally right next to the same road here that I just showed you. You can see some of those two obelisks in the background too. It's James G. Duncan and Mary Duncan are the parents here buried on the side. James is one of John's sons, so it's the one that's his father here, obviously. His stone is pretty well worn. You can hardly make out anything on it anymore. Mary's is in a little bit better shape. Next door here, it says mother, and you can make out her name, Mary Duncan, and her dates there. So this is our aunt and uncle, obviously. And next door is two of their sons. They have rather large stone here. Oliver P. Duncan here. They both died young. I believe Oliver died in 1874. Yeah, I think that's what it says here too. it's in pretty good shape. You can see right on there it says son of. So that's pretty great. And then I'll show you on the other side, they actually share this stone. This is Robert McLean Duncan. You can kind of make out some of the details still here. He's the one that was in the Civil War, and that's why this is on this grave. I tried to get this replaced, but I haven't had any luck with that yet. It's basically this insignia for the Grand Army of the Republic, the Northern Army. He was in Michigan. He was in a company from Michigan. I don't remember which company off the top of my head, but he was under Custer, George Armstrong Custer, and got captured. He was a POW in the South, and ended up going to Andersonville prison, and he eventually died there. It's attributed to various causes, but basically starved to death and got sick. They were treated really, really badly there. It's very famous as basically a concentration camp. One thing kind of funny about this grave is Oliver was actually given credit by the Michigan, basically the sons of the Union veterans, as having been in the war, because they assumed when they saw Oliver, this is kind of the front side, so just the fact that he had that marker on there, they assumed he was the one that was in the war, but to my knowledge, he was never in the war. He was very young, for one thing. I did find there was actually a man by the same name from Illinois that was in the war, so that helped the confusion. But to my knowledge, Oliver was not a soldier, did not fight in the Civil War. Robert was, and he kind of got robbed of credit for that by the Michigan Sons of the Union veterans. So I tried to straighten that out, but I haven't had much luck, like I said. I'd also love to get this replaced. I think actually more pieces have been stolen from here since the last time I was here. So that's kind of unfortunate. But you can see on there it says 61 to 65, obviously representing the years of the Civil War. So yeah, that was pretty cool. He was in the cavalry under Custer, and got captured behind enemy lines, basically. Famously, the cavalry kind of went on kind of excursions off behind enemy lines and everything like that, so it was a very dangerous unit to be in, basically. And he was only 18 years old when he died, so kind of puts things in perspective, 18 years old, and he was off fighting the war and ended up losing his life because of it. So there's a John W. Duncan here that also was in the Civil War, evidently. I don't remember off the top of my head where his grave was, and I haven't tied him into our family yet, but I assume he probably is from our family. There is one more other Duncan that I do know where their grave is, so I'm going to walk over there next. See maybe if I can find John's as well, but otherwise maybe I'll just add the picture in that I took the last time I was here. So I kind of looked out here. I had forgotten that John W. Duncan is actually right next to the other Duncan that I did remember. You can see they have a flag here indicating he was in the to indicate he was in the Civil War. You can see his headstone's in really good shape. John W. It even has his regiment on here. Company E, 21st Regiment, presumably for Michigan. Again, I haven't tied him into our family. I don't know exactly. He's probably a cousin. John was a very common name. There was at least two of our ancestors were John Duncan, and the other John Duncan that's buried here had a son named John Duncan as well, but it wasn't this John Duncan, I don't believe. Can double check on that, but and next to him is possibly his wife, Ada C. Duncan. She looks like she was born 18 years after him, so she would have been very young if it was his wife. But it seems like that's, you know, the likely possibility. She's buried here as well, and again, I haven't tied these people to the family, so I don't know exactly how they're tied in, but given that there's some from the same time period, there aren't a lot of other Duncans here, so I assume they probably are related somehow. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is right next to the second entrance, literally in the front row here. So they're pretty easy to find as well. That's the main road here to get here. I think it's called Farmer Street. So yeah, this is just almost all the way to the end of the cemetery. There's just a few graves on the other side of the entrance there. So it's pretty easy to find. So yeah, that's it as far as Duncans in this cemetery. There are some more I'm going to go try to find for the first time over in Hillside Cemetery. So just thought I'd show you that in case you're ever here and wanted to try to find them. Guess that's it for now. Thought I'd take one more shot here just to show you kind of how big this place is. It's a huge cemetery. I'm roughly maybe towards the middle of it. I don't know how many acres it is, but I'd say it's maybe 15 acres at least. It's pretty huge. So it's kind of easy if you don't know where you're going. You can imagine trying to find graves in here. Like the first time I came here, I walked basically through all these graves to find those. So definitely took a while. This is the oldest part. This is where John and Elizabeth are buried. If you can make out that same pine tree, I'm looking towards their grave. So yeah, it's a big place. It's easy, definitely not easy to find a grave if you don't know where you're going. So I'm here in Hillside Cemetery in Plainwell, right next to Otsego. And this is the gravesite of Simeon and Achsa. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce his wife's name. It's A-C-H-S-A. Achsa, something like that. Very unique name. It's this big monument here. You can see it says Duncan. It's in pretty good shape, actually. Hopefully you can make out that text. It's about midway from one end to the other and near the very front of the cemetery. So it's not too hard to find. Supposedly one of their sons is also buried in this cemetery, but he's not right here, so I'm not sure if he's in an unmarked grave. There's some empty space here, or if he's buried somewhere else. I believe his name was Archie. So I'll keep looking for a little while. There is another Duncan here buried right next to them. So I'm assuming that is a relative. This Martha, it says Martha Duncan Stark, was much younger, so possibly could be a granddaughter. She wasn't born until 1891. and Simeon was born in 1823, looks like, so it wouldn't have been his daughter. So I'm not exactly sure who this Martha Duncan is off the top of my head. But yeah, this is our aunt and uncle again. Simeon was one of the sons of John Duncan from the other cemetery nearby here. So a brother of our great-great-grandfather, William Duncan. So I'm glad I found that. Like I said, it's right about the middle of the cemetery. I'll show you both sides here. This is the main road, you know, obviously within, I don't know, 30 feet of the road. And this is the other side of the cemetery. This is another really big cemetery. I'll take a shot here of surrounding. It goes for quite a while in all directions. So again, it's right by basically the north side of the road. We're on the south side of the road, but it's pretty simple to find now that I know where it is. So I'm going to keep looking for a little while for Archie, if I can find him. Otherwise, maybe he, like I said, I believe he died as a young child, so he may have been buried in an unmarked grave, or even somewhere else in a children's section or something like that, since he's not right here. So I didn't have any luck finding Archie yet, but I wanted to give you kind of a better frame of reference if you ever try to find this. This is the gate, I guess, roughly at the center of the cemetery. I'll show you the road here. That's kind of the extent of the cemetery. It goes farther back, obviously, but if you start from here, it's just to the right. You can see it actually back there, the one that looks like a pillar. That's it right there, so it's pretty easy to find. I'm going to look a little bit more for that Archie Duncan. Otherwise, I'm going to give it up for today and maybe do a little more research. I vaguely remember, I thought there was a picture of it on Find a Grave, so if I know what it looks like, it'll be easier to find next time. So yeah.